My dear seekers of wisdom, imagine a great wheel, turning ever so slowly, grinding against time itself. To the human eye, it seems motionless, sluggish, even frustrating. Yet in the hands of the divine, that wheel can be quickened in an instant, spinning forward with the force of destiny. So too is the course of your life. And for some of you, your season of marriage. The waiting has been long, the prayers seemingly unanswered. Yet, dear soul, delay is not denial. In the realm where angels tread, time does not falter as it does here. There is an unseen hand that moves, and when it chooses to act, what took years can happen in mere moments. God is speeding up your marriage season. But before you rejoice, know this: acceleration without preparation is calamity. God does not operate on human time. When He moves, He can accelerate blessings that seem delayed. Yet the movement of God is not reckless nor arbitrary. It is intentional, purposeful, and deeply woven into the very fabric of divine providence. When we speak of acceleration, we must first acknowledge that God is not bound by our limited perception of time. We often measure our lives in years, seasons, and milestones, expecting that things must happen within a certain time frame. However, Scripture reminds us that one day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like one day. To the Lord, the God who created time is not subject to it. Therefore, when He moves to hasten a season, it is neither rushed nor premature. It is the unfolding of what was always meant to be in its perfect moment. For many, marriage has seemed like a distant promise, a dream that feels perpetually out of reach. The waiting has stretched long, prayers have risen like incense, and yet the answer has not yet come. Some have wondered if they have been forgotten, if perhaps they missed their divine appointment, or if God's plan for their union has been delayed beyond recovery. But to those who wait in expectation, there is a whisper in the Spirit: prepare, for acceleration is near. When God decides to speed up a season, He does not merely adjust external circumstances. He orchestrates a divine alignment where hearts, minds, and events converge in rapid succession. What once seemed to crawl now begins to sprint. Doors that remained shut suddenly burst open. The person who seemed far away appears in proximity. The stagnation of past disappointments is overtaken by the forward thrust of divine motion. Yet, before acceleration comes, there must be a revelation. Delay is not a curse, nor is it evidence of abandonment. It is in fact a divine process, a sacred refining where God prepares not only the blessing, but the vessel that will carry it. Just as a farmer does not rush to plant before the soil is tilled and enriched, God does not hasten a season before its appointed time. To do so would not be a blessing but a burden. Consider the story of Joseph, a young man given dreams of greatness, yet forced to endure slavery and imprisonment before stepping into his destiny. Had God placed him in leadership prematurely, he would not have had the wisdom, humility, or resilience necessary to steward the position. His waiting was not wasted. It was the very thing that made him ready. So it is with marriage. Many desire the acceleration of their union, yet few recognize that God, in His mercy, withholds certain blessings until the foundation is strong enough to sustain them. A marriage is not merely a wedding day. It is a lifelong covenant, a sacred partnership that requires depth, selflessness, and endurance. A man or woman who desires acceleration must first ask, am I prepared for what I am praying for? The weight of love requires strength of character. The demands of partnership require the discipline of selflessness. Acceleration is not simply about speed. It is about readiness. There is a powerful truth embedded in the life of Esther. She, too, was on the brink of divine acceleration. An ordinary Jewish girl found herself being prepared for a royal destiny. But note this: before she was crowned, she underwent a full year of preparation. Oils and spices were used to refine her. But beyond the external, God was refining her heart. She was not merely being beautified for the king, she was being strengthened for her assignment. Her acceleration did not come at the cost of her preparation. Rather, her preparation made way for her acceleration. So what does this mean for those who sense that God is speeding up their marriage season? It means that preparation must precede motion. When an athlete prepares for a race, he does not begin by running at full speed. He strengthens his body, disciplines his mind, and trains for the moment when acceleration is required. Likewise, those entering marriage must prepare their hearts, their minds, and their spirits. If love is to be patient and kind, then patience and kindness must first be cultivated in singleness. If marriage requires faithfulness, then one must learn to be faithful in their relationship with God before they can be faithful to a spouse. It also means that we must release our own timelines and trust in divine orchestration. Some fear they will be left behind, that perhaps they have missed their chance, or that others have gone ahead while they remain stagnant. But God is not in the business of forsaking His children. If he has called you to a season, he will bring it to pass. The danger is not in missing the season. The danger is in not being prepared when the season arrives. There is a moment in nature that mirrors this truth. The bamboo plant, when first planted, seems to do nothing. For years, it remains just a sprout showing no visible growth. But beneath the surface, its roots are deepening. Its foundation is strengthening. Then, in what seems like an instant, the bamboo shoots up, growing at an extraordinary rate. This is acceleration, not the absence of waiting, but the fulfillment of hidden preparation. Therefore, if God is accelerating your marriage season, take heart. Do not be anxious. Do not strive out of fear or desperation. Instead, lean into the preparation. Ask the hard questions. Seek wisdom. Grow in love, not just for the idea of marriage, but for the reality of covenant. Let God refine your heart so that when the acceleration comes, you will not be swept away by the speed of it, but will instead stand firm, ready and able to steward the blessing he has prepared. For when God moves, he moves swiftly, but never without purpose. Acceleration is coming. The question is not whether it will happen, but whether you will be ready when it does. Faith is the unseen force that moves the hand of God. When Peter stepped out of the boat onto the stormy sea, he defied the very laws of nature, walking on water not by his own strength, but by his unwavering trust in Christ. The moment he doubted, he began to sink. This is the essence of acceleration in the spiritual realm. When faith is strong, forward motion is inevitable. When faith wavers, progress is hindered. Many who seek the acceleration of their marriage season believe that external circumstances are the determining factor, but in reality, it is faith that serves as the catalyst. Without faith, even an open door may go unnoticed. Without faith, even divine appointments can be sabotaged by fear and hesitation. Faith is the bridge between where you are and where God is taking you. Faith is not passive. It is not a mere wish or a fleeting hope. It is an active force, a deliberate stance of expectation. When a farmer plants seeds, he does not wonder whether the harvest will come. He expects it, prepares for it, and works towards it. So it must be with those who believe that God is accelerating their marriage season. To have faith is not to sit idly and wait. It is to position oneself with readiness, knowing that the promise is certain. Faith changes posture. It shifts one's mindset from doubt to expectation, from passivity to act. It is not enough to desire acceleration. One must believe it to the point that they begin to prepare as if it is already unfolding. There is a powerful connection between faith and timing. Many assume that acceleration is purely an act of divine intervention, where God suddenly causes things to happen overnight. While it is true that God can move instantly, more often than not, acceleration is the culmination of faith that has been steadfast over time. Abraham was given the promise of a son, and while the fulfillment seemed delayed, the moment his faith aligned with God's perfect timing, the impossible became possible. Sarah, once barren, conceived in her old age. This was not a natural acceleration, it was supernatural. But it did not occur randomly. It was unlocked by faith. When faith is strong, it shifts not only one's perspective, but also one's action. A person who believes their marriage season is near will begin to make decisions that reflect that belief. They will refine their character, seek wisdom, and position themselves spiritually and emotionally for what is to come. They will not operate from a place of desperation, but of confidence, knowing that what has been spoken over their life will surely come to pass. The woman who prepared her lamp for the coming of the bridegroom in Jesus' parable did not wait until the last moment. She lived in expectation, ensuring that when the time came, she was ready. The opposite of faith is fear, and fear is the greatest thief of acceleration. Fear causes people to settle, to compromise, or to doubt the very thing they have prayed for. When faith is weak, people sabotage their own blessings by making decisions based on anxiety rather than trust. Some rush into relationships that are not ordained by God, fearing that waiting too long will leave them behind. Others push away opportunities for connection, believing they are not worthy or that love is unattainable. In both cases, the issue is not the timing of God, but the condition of the heart. Faith must be cultivated, just as a muscle is strengthened through resistance. The more one trusts, the more they are able to endure waiting without losing hope. Faith also influences perception. Two people can look at the same situation, one through the eyes of faith, the other through the eyes of doubt, and come to entirely different conclusions. Where one sees an obstacle, the other sees an opportunity. Where one sees delay, the other sees preparation. This is why faith is essential for acceleration, because when God begins to move, those who lack faith may not even recognize it. Acceleration is not always obvious. It often begins in the small, subtle shifts that only the eyes of faith can discern. A chance meeting, an unexpected conversation, an open door that once seemed closed. All of these are signs that God is moving, but only those who are spiritually attuned will perceive them. There is also a connection between faith and obedience. When God is ready to accelerate a season, he often gives instructions. These instructions may seem small or even unrelated to the desired outcome, but they are critical. Naaman, the Syrian commander, was told to wash in the Jordan River to receive healing from leprosy. At first, he resisted. He expected something grand, something dramatic, but his healing came through simple obedience to what seemed like an insignificant command. In the same way, when God is preparing to accelerate a marriage season, he may instruct a person to focus on their personal growth, to serve in a particular ministry, or to let go of past wounds. Those who obey, even when they do not understand, will find themselves moving forward at a supernatural pace. Faith does not ignore reality, but it does see beyond it. It acknowledges that circumstances may look impossible, but it refuses to be limited by them. The same God who brought Eve to Adam in divine perfection is still orchestrating unions today. The same God who arranged the meeting of Ruth and Boaz is still aligning hearts and destinies. To walk in faith is to walk in alignment with this divine orchestration, trusting that God is not only able, but willing to bring forth his promises in due season. The acceleration of a marriage season is not about forcing a timeline. It is about stepping into alignment with what God is already doing. Faith activates acceleration because it removes the barriers of doubt, fear, and hesitation that so often delay God's plans. A heart that is full of faith is a heart that is ready, and a heart that is ready will not miss its divine appointment. When acceleration comes, those who have been walking in faith will not be caught off guard. They will be found waiting with their lamps full, ready to step into the promise that was prepared for them all along. There is a sacred mystery in waiting, a divine purpose hidden within what the human heart often perceives as delay. It is easy to assume that when something does not happen within our expected timeline, it is because we are being overlooked or that circumstances are working against us. Yet in the kingdom of God, delay is not a denial, but a classroom, a space where God repairs, prepares, and strengthens those who are called to receive his blessings. This is especially true in the matter of marriage. The season of waiting is not a punishment, nor is it an indication that something has gone wrong. It is a divine setup, a period of transformation where God is not only preparing the union, but is also preparing the individuals who will step into it. The refining season is often uncomfortable. It is a place where patience is stretched, where faith is tested, and where deep inner work is required. Many long for the day when they will enter into marriage, but few recognize that without refinement, they may not be ready for the weight of that commitment. Love is not sustained by emotions alone. It requires maturity, selflessness, and a heart that has been trained in the ways of sacrifice. The waiting season is where these qualities are formed. It is where God strips away insecurities, heals past wounds, and builds the strength needed to sustain a lifelong covenant. Consider the process of refining gold. Raw gold is not immediately beautiful. It is mixed with impurities that dull its value. To bring forth its true worth, it must be placed in the fire, melted down, and separated from that which does not belong. Only then does it shine in its fullness. So it is with those who are waiting for marriage. The fire of waiting is not there to harm. It is there to purify. God allows seasons of solitude, of introspection, and of growth, not to frustrate, but to prepare. He is refining character, removing fears, and ensuring that when the blessing comes, it will not be squandered. There are many who, in their impatience, attempt to escape the refining season. They rush ahead, forcing relationships that are not aligned with God's will, believing that movement is better than stillness. Yet a tree that is uprooted before its roots are deep enough will not stand in the storm. Many marriages fail not because love was absent, but because preparation was neglected. The refining season ensures that when the winds of difficulty blow, the foundation will not be shaken. Those who allow God to work in them during this time will emerge stronger, wiser, and fully equipped to step into the responsibility of marriage. Another crucial aspect of refinement is healing. Many enter relationships carrying wounds from the past, rejections, betrayals, disappointments. Without healing, these wounds can become barriers, preventing true intimacy and trust. The waiting season is God's opportunity to bring restoration. It is where he teaches forgiveness, where he dismantles fears, and where he replaces pain with peace. Those who submit to this process will find that when love arrives, they will be able to receive it fully without the weight of past burdens clouding the joy of the present. The refining season is also where purpose is discovered. Marriage is not just about companionship, it is about partnership in destiny. God does not simply bring two people together for their happiness alone. He aligns them for a greater purpose. Before Eve was presented to Adam, Adam had an assignment. He was given dominion, responsibility, and a role to fulfill. In the same way, before marriage comes, there is a season where God establishes individual purpose. He calls his children to serve, to grow, to step into their unique callings. Those who embrace this time of discovery will find that when marriage comes, they will not enter it seeking completion from another person, but will instead bring wholeness into the union. There is also a testing in the refining season. God often allows situations that reveal the true condition of the heart. Perhaps he withholds something that is deeply desired to see whether faith will endure. Perhaps he places an individual in a situation that requires patience and trust. These tests are not meant to discourage, but to strengthen. Just as a soldier is trained before battle, so too must the heart be trained for the realities of love and commitment. Those who pass these tests find that they are not only prepared for marriage, but are also equipped for the greater assignments that God has for them. Waiting is not wasted. Every moment spent in refinement is a moment that builds a stronger foundation. Those who embrace the process rather than resist it will find that when God does accelerate their marriage season, they will step into it with confidence, peace, and readiness. The refining season is God's way of ensuring that what he is building will last. It is not a delay, it is preparation for acceleration. When God accelerates a season, he does not do so in isolation. His movements are always in harmony with his greater design, weaving together events, circumstances, and people to bring about his divine purpose. Many times, those waiting for marriage believe that their journey is purely an individual one, that their preparation is personal and their season of waiting is independent of external factors. However, divine acceleration is never a solo endeavor. God is not only working on you, he is working on the person you are meant to be with, shaping both of you separately, so that when the time comes, your lives will align in a way that glorifies him. There is a process in heaven that is unseen but always active. God is orchestrating divine appointments, moving hearts, and preparing circumstances to ensure that his plans come to pass. This is why acceleration, when it happens, often seems sudden. What appears as an overnight shift is actually the culmination of countless unseen moments of preparation. Ruth did not know that her journey to the fields of Boaz would lead to her destiny. Joseph did not realize that his years of suffering would place him in a position to save a nation and ultimately bring about the lineage of Christ. In the same way, those who are waiting for their marriage season to begin must understand that God is already working behind the scenes, aligning everything for the right moment. One of the most important aspects of divine acceleration is obedience. When God begins to shift things quickly, it requires a willingness to move in step with him. Many people delay their own blessings, not because God is not moving, but because they are hesitant to follow his lead. Sometimes acceleration requires letting go of past relationships, stepping out of comfort zones, or embracing unexpected opportunities. Esther did not know that her preparation in the palace would position her as queen at the exact time her people needed a deliverer. Yet, had she resisted the process or held on to fear, she might have missed her divine appointment. Likewise, when God accelerates a marriage season, he may prompt someone to step into new environments, to cultivate new friendships, or to release old mindsets that no longer serve his purpose. Timing is another crucial factor in divine acceleration. Many assume that because something has not happened yet, it never will. But in reality, God's timing is precise. He is not slow, nor is he hasty. He moves in perfection. There are moments in life when a shift happens and everything that once seemed stagnant begins to move rapidly. This is what happened when Sarah conceived Isaac in her old age. For decades, it seemed impossible. But when God decided it was time, what had been delayed was suddenly fulfilled. This teaches us that the length of the wait does not determine the speed of the fulfillment. God can change circumstances in an instant, bringing two lives together at exactly the right time. One of the greatest challenges in a season of acceleration is discernment. When things begin to move quickly, it is easy to mistake movement for direction. Not every opportunity is from God. Not every person who enters your life in a season of acceleration is meant to stay. The enemy often tries to introduce counterfeits, relationships that look promising but are distractions from God's best. This is why spiritual discernment is critical. A person who is in alignment with God will not be swayed by temporary emotions or external pressures, but will seek confirmation through prayer, wisdom, and godly counsel. Before Isaac met Rebekah, his servant prayed specifically for God to reveal the right woman, and God honored that request with clear signs. In the same way, those walking into a season of acceleration must remain prayerful, ensuring that they are walking in God's will and not being led by impulse. Acceleration also requires trust. When God begins to move quickly, there is often a temptation to resist out of fear or uncertainty. Many people have prayed for marriage, but when the opportunity arises, they hesitate, questioning whether they are truly ready. The truth is, when God brings something to pass, he also provides the grace to walk in it. A person who has spent years preparing may still feel unqualified when the moment arrives, but trust must override hesitation. Peter had to step out of the boat before he experienced the miracle of walking on water. Likewise, those stepping into marriage must trust that if God has ordained it, he will also equip them for it. Acceleration is not just about personal readiness, it is about divine alignment. When God moves, he does so with precision, ensuring that everything necessary for success is in place. This is why patience in the waiting season is vital. A person who tries to force acceleration on their own may end up out of alignment, stepping into something that is premature. But when acceleration is truly from God, it is accompanied by peace, clarity, and divine order. The right person, the right timing, and the right circumstances will come together in a way that only God can orchestrate. When God is speeding up a marriage season, the response should be one of faith, obedience, and trust. There is no need to strive, to panic, or to rush ahead of his timing. Instead, there must be an awareness that his hand is at work, moving things into place with a wisdom far beyond human understanding. What once seemed slow will suddenly move quickly, and what once felt distant will come into focus. Those who remain in step with God, trusting his process and following his lead, will find themselves exactly where they are meant to be, at the right place, at the right time, with the right person, walking into a destiny that was always prepared for them. When God accelerates a season, especially one as significant as marriage, the preparation must match the pace of the blessing. Many desire acceleration, but do not consider the weight of what they are stepping into. Marriage is not merely an event, it is a covenant, a divine assignment that requires readiness in every dimension, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and even physically. It is not enough to pray for acceleration, one must also prepare for it. Just as a runner does not step onto the track without training, those entering a season of divine acceleration must condition themselves to carry what is coming. Spiritual preparation is the foundation. Marriage is not just about companionship. It is a spiritual union designed to reflect God's relationship with his people. Those who step into it unprepared in their faith may find themselves overwhelmed by the responsibility. Before God brings two people together, he often calls them to deeper intimacy with him first. A person who is not rooted in their spiritual identity may expect their spouse to fill a void that only God can fill, leading to disappointment and strain. Spiritual preparation means developing a strong prayer life, learning to hear God's voice clearly, and building a foundation of faith that will sustain not just the beginning of a marriage, but its longevity. It means growing in wisdom, understanding the biblical principles of love, sacrifice, and partnership, and becoming someone who is spiritually mature enough to lead or be led. Emotional preparation is equally vital. Many enter marriage with unresolved wounds, believing that love alone will heal them. But what is left unhealed in singleness does not disappear in marriage, it magnifies. If insecurities, fears, or past traumas are not addressed, they will become barriers to true intimacy. Preparing emotionally means being honest about weaknesses, seeking healing where necessary, and learning emotional intelligence, how to communicate effectively, how to handle conflict, and how to extend grace. It requires self-awareness, the ability to recognize one's triggers, and the willingness to grow. Love is not sustained by romance alone. It is upheld by the ability to navigate challenges with patience and understanding. Mental preparation involves shifting from a mindset of self-focus to one of partnership. Many have spent years making decisions based solely on their own desires and routines. But marriage requires a mindset of unity, thinking in terms of we rather than me. It means understanding that sacrifice will be required, that compromise is not weakness, but wisdom, and that a successful marriage is built on mutual respect and shared vision. Preparing mentally also involves learning practical wisdom, how to manage finances, how to set goals together, how to build a home that fosters peace and stability. Those who enter marriage without this preparation may find themselves struggling with the reality of shared responsibility. Physical preparation is often overlooked, but it plays a role in readiness. While the focus focus should never be on outward appearance alone. Taking care of one's health, well-being, and presentation is a reflection of self-respect and stewardship. More importantly, physical preparation includes lifestyle habits, how one manages time, how one maintains discipline, and how one builds a life that is balanced and stable. A person who lives in constant chaos, disorganization, or unhealthy patterns will carry those same habits into marriage, creating unnecessary stress. Preparation means ensuring that life is in order, not perfect, but structured in a way that welcomes partnership rather than burdens it. One of the greatest mistakes people make in a season of acceleration is assuming that preparation can happen after the blessing arrives. But acceleration does not wait for readiness, it requires it in advance. When God moved the Israelites into the promised land, he did not prepare them after they arrived, he prepared them in the wilderness. When David became king, he did not learn leadership once he wore the crown, he learned it in the fields as a shepherd. God's pattern is always the same. He prepares before he accelerates. Those who recognize this truth will position themselves wisely, using their waiting season as a training ground rather than a place of frustration. Another key aspect of preparation is stewardship. God does not give more to those who do not manage well what they already have. Many pray for a spouse, but do not steward their current relationships well. They desire a home, but do not manage their personal life with excellence. Preparation involves faithfulness in the small things. Are you building a life that is ready to welcome another person? Are you managing your responsibilities with diligence? Are you practicing the virtues that will make you a blessing to your future spouse? Marriage does not change who a person is, it reveals it. Those who cultivate faithfulness, integrity, and wisdom now will carry those same qualities into their union. Readiness also involves a willingness to learn. No one enters marriage knowing everything, but those who are teachable, who seek wisdom, and who surround themselves with godly counsel will be far better equipped than those who assume they can figure everything out on their own. Preparation means studying, learning from those who have strong marriages, reading books that provide insight, and asking the right questions. It means humbling oneself enough to recognize that preparation is not a sign of weakness, but of wisdom. Ultimately, when God is accelerating a marriage season, he is not just moving externally, he is transforming internally. The level of preparation will determine the capacity to sustain the blessing. Those who step into marriage unprepared may find that what should have been a blessing becomes a source of struggle. But those who have allowed God to refine them, who have positioned themselves in wisdom, and who have embraced the process will step into acceleration with confidence, grace, and readiness. The preparation may seem long, but when the moment of acceleration comes, those who have prepared will not just receive the blessing, they will thrive in it. When God is accelerating your marriage season, he is not simply bringing two people together. He is aligning destinies, refining hearts, and preparing both individuals for a covenant that will impact generations. Acceleration is not just about speed, it is about divine timing, readiness, and purpose. What may have once seemed like delay was actually preparation. Every test, every season of waiting, and every moment of refinement has been a necessary step in shaping you into the person who can sustain and thrive in the blessing that is coming. Now is the time to walk in faith, to trust that God's timing is perfect, and to prepare with intentionality. When acceleration comes, it does not leave room for hesitation or uneasiness. It requires a heart that is surrendered, a mind that is renewed, and a life that is in alignment with God's will. The union God is preparing for you is not just for companionship, but for kingdom impact. He is bringing you into a marriage that will reflect his love, his glory, and his divine purpose. Do not fear the speed of his movement. Do not resist the stretching of preparation. Instead, embrace the process, knowing that what God has ordained will come to pass in his perfect time. When acceleration happens, those who have been faithful in preparation will find themselves stepping effortlessly into the season they once only dreamed of. God is not delaying, he is ensuring that when the door opens, you will not only walk through it, but will be fully equipped to carry the blessing with grace, strength, and purpose. Prepare yourself, for the season is shifting and acceleration is here.